Hey folks, Steve here with a monitor side chat video for you today on February 5th, 2022. Um, I realize it's been, what, 3 to 4 months since I've done a video. Um, and obviously I'm still here, and this video is the first in a while. So much of that, I don't want to dwell and spend a huge amount of time talking about it. Um, it just largely has to do with work-life balance and some really busy time at work that basically destroyed any ability for me to do um, much recreationally. So just split between work and family, just really hard to do really anything that wasn't tied to one of those two things. So my ability to get just able to decompress and relax and do some game stuff just very very difficult. Now that's not to say that I didn't do anything related to gaming. I have, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But 2022 is a new year, a new opportunity for some games, and I've gotten. What's funny is like when you start to get more games than you can play, you start to feel a little bit bad about that, and stuff that you had on pre-order starts to pile up as it arrives, and you really want to get to playing those things, but um, you have to prioritize. So we'll talk through a couple of interesting events that are coming up regarding that. How I think I'm going to have more games on my hands than I will know what to do with, but that's okay. So a couple of things just to share. I still, while I for the most part had very limited recreational time, I still managed to play a couple of sessions of World in Flames with my World in Flames group. We did call our game to a close. The allies were just doing very very poorly. My play was contributing to that. I can only say that um, I'm still not very good at World in Flames. After all these years, I'm still not very good at it. Um, some of that, I think, it's just when you think about a game of World in Flames that you're really playing the course of a campaign over um, what could be years. If you're not used to certain situations, because they only come up, once in a couple years, and you forget about, oh, I should have done this, or I should have had a unit there, and the last time this was relevant, I thought I learned that lesson, but I forgot it, but that was 2 years ago. That kind of stuff crops up, and I think it's really hard. Um, and it kind of puts a weird spin. So World in Flames as a World War II game, all the times that I've played World in Flames, we've never gotten really past 1943. Um, because for one reason or another, the game gets called and we end. And what makes that hard is like I don't really know what 1944 is supposed to look like in a World in Flames game, or get to play that, or get to enjoy being the Allies on the offensive, or be the Axis on the Allies on the offensive and the Axis on the defensive. At that point, it's almost always just the Axis on the offensive until such and such a point, or somebody leaves the group and we have to start over, or we want to start over, and all that kind of stuff. Um, and to me, it's starting to get a little annoying. Just I mean, World in Flames is still my big World War II game of choice, but it is very aggravating to not get to see some of this stuff, or to have like the U.S. largely be out of the action and not really get to see their effect on the game properly in a real game context, and that's very frustrating. Now the solution to that would be to try to start a World in Flames game with like the 1942 or 43 scenario start dates, right? Those are available. They are there in the game, in the campaign book to play. Um, but our group has never tried it. We never set it up, and it might even be very enjoyable. But I think one of our group members is probably going to be very opposed to it because he I think based on statements he's made, he likes starting in 39, because then you have the opportunity to build all the things that you want to build or whatever. But it's like, okay, how many times are we going to invade Poland, guys? Like, we're just like, I've invaded Poland. I've had Poland invaded more times than I've seen a carrier battle in the Pacific, right? And it's starting to get to the point where, like, how many years is it going to take to get to that point? So that's been very frustrating. But now that that game is called, the current plan is for our World in Flames group to go back to, or I shouldn't say go back to, because our group hasn't really played it, but I've played Fatal Alliances. So Fatal Alliances is the World War One World in Flames game. It's really the game that I started with in terms of World in Flames, and it has a special place in my heart. And I like World War One as a topic in general to learn about and to play games in. So we're gonna do that instead, and some of that's because we're down to really three consistent players. Fatal Alliance is a little bit easier to handle with three players. The game is in general operationally for the military stuff easier to handle. It's just got these extra political and production rules that are a little bit nuanced but aren't so bad. So we're going to give that a try, and we'll give that a try in February, and we'll see, how that goes. Um, you know, uh, it's either going to be, I think, in the later part of the month, or maybe even March before we play it. But it should be pretty good. It should be pretty interesting, and that will at least be one way I can try to get some recreational wargaming fun in a regular cadence. And as I do videos here, I'll make mention of kind of how that game goes. I also have actually coming up this week a game convention. This is a local game convention in my state, in my metropolitan area, that is held usually every year. Obviously, COVID, the pandemic has impacted the ability for that event to occur, but we are going to have it this year, so folks will be masked up, vaccinated, all that stuff, and we'll give it a go for 5 days of gaming basically. So fingers crossed that goes well. I'm probably going to do a separate video as a sort of like pre-game or a pre-convention video talking about the games that I'm planning on playing, and we'll reflect on the aftermath of the convention when I get back from that. I did that a couple years ago for the same convention, and I thought that was very interesting to kind of talk about, here's what I project is going to happen, and then here's how it actually went. So we'll probably do the same thing. I'm just going to make that a separate video because this video could get, overly long if I go through all that material. So from here, I think I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of talk about all the games coming up, kind of all the publisher news that we haven't really talked about here since I've been on hiatus for a few months, but just some things that have kind of developed since last time we talked. So the GMT update from January, just a couple weeks ago, included some pretty interesting information. They got a sneak peek of the Fall of Saigon expansion for Fire in the Lake. Fire in the Lake is my favorite coin game. I think it's the best one so far, and it's getting a sort of sequel expansion that takes you into 72 through 75. So that is coming. We are on the cusp of getting that. And then what's interesting is I think it was here that they announced another expansion that was going to be a prequel. So here's the new P500 editions listed. We are going to be doing Fall of Diem sequence. So it looks like, I'm trying to make sure where they really started to talk about. So they're going to have an early war Fire in the Lake expansion. So expansion 1 is Fall of Saigon. Expansion 2 has 1961 onward, 61 through 63, some new pivotal events. You can see kind of the information here. So kind of an Sovereign of Discord, I guess is the title. Here we go. And this will allow you to experience the full Indochina War from 1961 to 1975 if you have all the expansions, um, and go all the way through. And so and it also includes a bunch of other update cards or new cards to add to the base game, more scenarios, more things. So if you like Fire in the Lake, and like I said, I do quite a bit. Um, you're getting a sequel soon, and then we're going to have a prequel expansion coming up soon as well. And suddenly that game is going to get a lot bigger. It's going to have a lot more stuff, and I do think that that's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to it, even if it's been a while since I played Fire in the Lake. I do like the idea of these expansions, and at some point trying to play the full 61 to 75 Super Grand Campaign game and see how that all plays out together. Um, that was really the big 500 item from this one. They're adding some reprints. There were a few other items that were mentioned in the previous months that I won't necessarily go over. But for the stuff on the horizon, I think there's a couple of things worth looking at. So they have a new war game set during the 30 Years' War. I'm going to go ahead and make a bet that this is Won by the Sword Volume 2 by, I think the game designer is Ben Hall. Um, because via special channels, I know that he was working on a Won by the Sword Volume 2. That was probably getting closer to completion, and so that is going to be my bet that Volume 2, Won by the Sword, has gotten to the point where it's kind of ready for P500 status, so we'll see if my bet is right on that. There's going to be a smaller entry in the Levy and Campaign series, so maybe a good introductory game that is a better introductory game than maybe Nevsky or one of the other ones. A new game series from Rick Young, and a pole mill game that came out of the Zenobia Awards competition, which, I mean, I don't know what to think that is. I'll hold my guesses in reserve for now because I'm not very familiar with it. My printer is waking up to print documents that I asked it to print ages ago. Cool. Let's see. Oh, they canceled the War Room at Dice Tower. That COVID's just given us grief, guys. Not much to say about that. And let's see. Yeah, so we've got the charging and shipping updates, and I think this is really the more interesting thing to call out, for the month. So we have they charged on the 13th, so a month ago, to begin shipping in a couple of weeks. So there's Barbarossa Army Group Center for those who are in that series, Battle of Shiloh game. The Pacific War reprint, Mark Kerman's Pacific War, comes in at a astounding £10. 10 pounds. 10 pounds of game. And I'm trying to think, what does 10 pounds feel like? There's definitely been some big GMT games that are heavy. 10 pounds might be the heaviest. I'm trying to think if I've had, what could be the other game that's as heavy as that? Maybe the Great Battles of the American Revolution tri-pack was pretty heavy. Maybe not that heavy. I don't know. 10 pounds. And we'll take a look at that here in a few minutes. But that is on its way, thank goodness, after all this time. We also have Vietnam reprint coming in at 5 pounds, so not quite as much, but that's going to be another big game that I've been waiting for, and it's going to be coming in. Also a fairly heavy, 5 pounds, that's pretty sizable. And when we look at the rest of the production outlook, so you can see it's at port, projected late January warehouse arrival. Given we're already in February, they probably have gotten these in, and these packages are probably being prepared to be sent. We also have in the early mid-February warehouse arrival the U.S. Civil War second printing and the update kit. I'm in for the update kit. I actually got one for my buddy as well, who has a copy of U.S. Civil War. Um, really cool game. I've not done enough on the channel about it. I should do some stuff with it. With the update kit, that really is just some updated charts, updated rulebook, and stuff. Um, no counters needed fixing or anything like that. It's just all really minor component updates with some fixed errata and rules clarifications. I'm going to be definitely interested in giving U.S. Civil War another go, with the update kit. So definitely on my mind, but between Pacific War, Vietnam, U.S. Civil War, and other stuff, again, my games to play list is getting bigger and bigger, and I'm not getting through as much as I thought I was going to, due to the craziness that my life has been lately. There's still some more stuff coming. The CDG solo system components, that Fall of Saigon expansion will be coming, probably within the next few months of this year. Maybe by summer we'll have that. And a few other, a great many things to come from GMT. They have a lot still in the hopper that is on its way. There's some good stuff in your final map for Banish the Snakes, or Banish the Snakes. The miniature Twilight Struggle game, stuff from Banish All Their Fears, which is a 1700 sort of Great Battles type of system game here. You see some of the counters. What's interesting is that these counters are not doing the, like, here's a mild, detailed drawing of a soldier. It's like the counter shows ranks of men, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm not used to seeing that in terms of counter design from GMT, so it's a little bit different than what we're used to, maybe. And a lot of other things that it's really hard for me to talk to. That Napoleon game, we talked back in some of the older Monitor Side chat videos about this Napoleon game from Ted Racer. Well, they did kind of show that, and I'm going to go ahead and switch gears to that now and take a little bit of a closer look. So there's Napoleon. I don't know if I pre-ordered this. I'm not logged into my account at the moment, but Napoleon by Ted Racer. This is not, as best as I can tell, it doesn't seem like it's based on a pre-existing system. At least one that is obvious. So there are different cards for different, looks like maybe different eras. You are 220 beautifully illustrated cards. And the Commander, First Consul, and Emperor, so 3 decks that are going to represent, I think, the time frames, right? When Napoleon was a commander, when he was First Consul of France, and then when he had crowned himself Emperor. You make decisions, you play cards for different parts of the map. It only has half a counter sheet and a standard size mounted map board, so it's probably going to be a pretty straightforward game, right? Low complexity, high solitaire. It's a solitaire game. It's hard to know what to think of this, right, without seeing it be played. You can try to look at what some of the cards say, like gain ongoing effects, gain 4 admin per year, so admin being some resource you can spend. Solitaire games are always kind of interesting in that way, where it's like there's a limited set of things you can do at any given time, and that really governs what all you can really do. So there's not this huge not always a huge decision space in a solitaire game. I've found sometimes where it's really like, well, you're going to pick one of a couple of options, and that's going to take you down a decision tree. So we'll see how this goes. But the price point, $50 on P500, that seems reasonable. And if you like Napoleonic era stuff, this might be a fun one to try out. I'll probably look at picking this up, if only because, this might be a fun one to try on camera and as a solitaire game on Napoleon. I mean, that's up my alley, right? I'll take that. It's already reached its goal, so we're going to get this at some point. Now, moving over to the Pacific War stuff, again, the 10-pounder, you can see it's sort of incorporated in the price, right? Like, this is $80 on the discounted P500. What's interesting now is that the rules are available, not the scenario stuff, right? So, you don't get that preview because GMT doesn't usually publish the playbook stuff. But just so you understand, like, where that £10 is coming from. It's a big 4-inch box, which is huge, by the way. 3 rule books, 2 regular sized, 22 by 34 mounted maps. That's why you need the 4-inch box, because you're going to have these huge mounted maps. Cardboard scenario map, 9 counter sheets, which is substantial. 9. That's a lot. A record sheet, a pad of record sheets, and various display sheets that are 11 by 34, which is, I'm trying to think, that's a fold out piece of paper, I think, right? I'm trying to think like what that looks like. I think it's a 3-panel fold out sheet kind of thing. And if you're really curious about the rules, they do have things set out here where there's the engagement rules, the battle rules, and the core rules. And that's why there's different rule books involved, as well as the 3 rule books. Is there not a playbook? I thought maybe I don't know. Maybe they're missing something here. But if you go look at, here's the engagement rules, right? You can open this up, because this is very specifically engagement scenario rules. And I don't see the scenarios. So either, or I'm blind as a bat, I don't know, but I don't see them in here, where there's probably going to be a playbook. Scenario booklet. Okay, and I don't think that was that listed on the components. 3 rule books. Yeah, they're missing that on the list of components, the scenario book, so hopefully hopefully when the box arrives, we have a scenario booklet, right? Yeah, see, they've got it listed here. Okay. There's a couple of, okay, maybe this is the better thing to look at, right? 2 mounted maps, the paper map, cardboard map. Now that says 10 sheets of counters. This is probably more up to date than the product page. So I'm going to guess that it's actually 10 sheets. Core rule book, scenario booklet, engagement rule book, which is what we're looking at right now. The battle booklet, battle core rule C booklet, which I'm not exactly sure what this is intended to be, but there you go. And then all these displays, all this crazy stuff, right? The engagement scenarios are solitaire hands-on learning devices. So this is going to be probably the rulebook you would want to start with, and as you scroll through here, you can start to see the counter stuff, and then I'm just going to scroll quickly here. Like, you start getting into, these are what all these different things mean on the map. This is how you start to play the game. Unit strength, basic things that you need to be able to play, and then you can see for huge parts of the rules like weather, strategic intelligence, strat bombing, command links, they're because they're not used in the engagement scenarios by themselves, those are simply cut out of this particular rulebook. So you don't need to worry about any of these things. You just need to read the still 40 pages of rules to play these basic scenarios and kind of learn how to play these things. So you can see there's a lot of things just wholly cut out of here, but you still got to read through 40 pages just to do the engagement stuff. Now, if I went back and I looked at, then you have the battles rules, which are a little bit longer. They're at 44 pages. You start to see there's a lot of the similar content, right? But it starts to trickle in more stuff. You can see they still cut out weather, they still cut out a lot of these things, but then there's more that's included. You know, at least 4 more pages worth of content ultimately. And then when you're ready to go for the big show, you know, you can read the core rules, which come out to be 68 pages, and it's got everything. So you definitely, you can take the time to think through, like, okay, what am I, if I'm just going to try to learn this gigantic game, what am I going to try to read and absorb and go from there. And knowing that this game is really intended to be a collection of battles and operational situations rather than intended to really be played strategically, I think you could get away with a lot of these engagement and battle rules review rather than the full core rules. Um, but mileage may vary by the time this thing arrives and we see what all we're dealing with here. But very much looking forward to this. I still have a copy of the original that I got pre-owned, but at this point, all eyes are on this new version. Though I have looked at the scenarios a little bit to get an understanding of what's really there. So this will be cool. This will be good to get in. Vietnam stuff, the final rules, and the final playbook are both available. So here, GMT has provided the playbook information for this. It's a 22-page. They have examples of play in here, which is really good. I think it's going to be really important for folks to see an example because this game is still pretty fairly complex in terms of my reading. And you can see there's a lot of information in here on unit designations, stuff to play. What's interesting is, you can read through the designer notes, and there's a reference to the designer talking to Mark Herman, and Mark Herman stating, like, hey, you gotta, you need some scenarios in here. It can't just be this gigantic campaign game that takes 100 hours to play. Folks are going to have trouble with that. You got to put some scenarios in. And sure enough, they've got Silver Bayonet added to this edition of the game. This is new for this version. I think Mitch, leaned into this because of the Silver Bayonet game that he helped GMT with. So pretty cool. Looking forward to digging into this one more and more and more. The rulebook is similarly available as well as some of the player aid sheets. So you can see a lot of the game already before it arrives. And you can start to see all the rules, all the different types of activities that can be engaged with. And even the rulebook has a lot of real examples to help you understand the rule, which is going to be really important, I think. Because again, I see this game as pretty darn complex. So a lot, 44-page rule book. That's pretty sizable. This is ultimately a very big game to get onto the table. Now, if you want to look at, let's see, take a look at the sequence of play. Well, that's not too terribly bad. That's pretty straightforward sequence of play. I was hoping to see. I think they put together a chart for the different operations, but I don't see that as available to view here. But I think that's going to be one of the big improvements, is just some logistical help and understanding how to execute the game processes that can be a bit nuanced. So yeah, this will be good. I'm looking forward to getting this in. Now, Conquest and Consequence, which is the companion game to Triumph and Tragedy, which is a block game. I actually did receive my copy of this. So this is one that I had been kind of waiting on getting, and it did finally arrive. Now, what I didn't do is a unboxing video for this. I'm not sure that I'm going to. I have to kind of decide where my time is, but I still have the shrink on mine. I received it. It is on my table, but I have not opened it yet. I'm going to be at that game convention next week, and there are multiple games of this. Like, people got their copy and they scheduled games at the convention, so I'm going to get at least a look at these and see kind of how it's going. There's some errata already, and it looks like, see, that's like a significant, like, if you know the combat system of these games, you know, like, an N1 versus N2 is kind of a significant thing to know. So there's already a page of errata, but that's not so bad. It could be worse. But the living rules are up, and you can start to take a look at this game now as well. Comes in a 3-inch box, so it's still a pretty big box. It's got some weight to it due to the blocks inside. Um, and as I get more insight on this game, we'll probably talk more to it. Now, outside the GMT context, we look at Compass. They still have a number of different things that are on the pre-order list that I'm not too terribly interested in. They now have the Kickstarter open for the Third World War, which means that it is ready. It's about ready to go. And I'm going to add one more game to this list to talk about. But for the Third World War, you know, big price point. They have the Kickstarter open to get some additional orders in. You can see the back of the box. The map stuff is all kind of finalized. Lots of counter sheets available for viewing, so you can see what these start to look like if you want to take the time and start to go through all this stuff. Like it is ready for prime time. All this stuff you can see. And okay, I think they have the rulebook posted to the Kickstarter page. I'd have to double check that, but this is about ready to go. I think it's going to start shipping even within the next couple of weeks. And it's been one that I've been really looking forward to. But again, it's one of these games that is part of this big reprinting old classics in super robust versions that I simply haven't had much time to actually play, which is a damn shame. But looking forward to this. I'll probably do an unboxing video for this when I get it, because I am really looking forward to it. I really want to try some of the scenarios out, like doing the one that's in the Middle East. I think would be very interesting. And then another game that was coming out was this Barbarian at the Gates. I'm still uncertain how to feel about this game. I was thinking about pre-ordering it. I've not pulled the trigger, but it is something I was looking at because it does cover the decline, fall of the Western Roman Empire. That's always a very interesting time frame. It's card driven. It's from Chris Van Beerden, who did Europe in Turmoil, which is a really great game that I really enjoyed. So something that I'm looking at. I haven't quite pulled the trigger on it. I have so many games that I need to play, but I'm a sucker for Fall of the Roman Empire time period. So something interesting to look at. If you guys have opinions on these games, let me know. But yeah, that's a basic roundup of some things going on that I'm still looking forward to. We've got a lot of good games coming, gonna be shipping. It should be an excellent time frame for gaming this year. 2022 is going to be a strong year for gaming. I think it's going to be very good. It'll be good for me, I hope. I just again lament my limited ability to play anything and to record anything. I really was planning on doing Case Yellow 1940. I still have Case Yellow set up on one of my game tables. I have Reluctant Enemies from the OCS series partially set up on my other gaming table, and I've just simply not been able to do that. But we'll look at doing, again, the pre-convention video here soon. We'll talk about the games I'm going to be playing at that and some commentary and projections, and we'll probably see a video shortly after I get back from that convention as well. So it's good to be recording, and hopefully we'll get some comments from the folks that usually do that watch these videos. Appreciate you guys able to stick around with my hiatus. Otherwise, we'll talk again soon, guys. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.